An FBI raid on a Safe Streets location. Our team demands answers on the investigation and the future of the agency. Criminals caught in the act on camera almost daily. What a law enforcement expert says is emboldening offenders and what she says needs to change. Plans to revitalize Harbor Place move forward today, but will it be enough to keep people in Baltimore amid the ongoing crime crisis? We press leaders on those concerns.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
This could be the moment that people say enough is enough.
Well, the FBI raids a Safe Streets location for possible gang affiliation. The pressure mounting for more transparency and the implications for Mayor Brandon Scott.
What it says is criminals are no longer worried about being prosecuted, first of all. It also says that we've lost the conscience in our society, especially among young people.
And after having the same car stolen twice, camera footage shows the moments some young suspects apparently try to steal a car for the third time. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. We are seeing yet another brazen crime caught on camera, and now those victims are demanding accountability.
Plus, we continue to follow the latest developments after the FBI raids the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets location last week. We're learning 3 workers at that location are on leave following the raid.
And we have team coverage tonight covering our top stories.
Let's begin with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost. She's been investigating Safe Streets for years now, and today she's pressing city leaders on the program's future.
Mayor Brandon Scott has not faced questions publicly after the FBI raided a Safe Streets location last week. He's only offered a written statement. Today, we wanted to ask him in person, when is he going to be more transparent with the public about what's going on inside the Safe Streets program? Days after the news broke about an FBI raid here at the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site, Mayor Brandon Scott staying mostly quiet, only issuing a statement pledging cooperation with federal partners. The Safe Streets site managed by LifeBridge Health, and LifeBridge confirming 3 employees are on leave in wake of the federal probe. Monday, we asked LifeBridge, when were the employees placed on leave? Is that leave paid? Are all 3 employees from the Bel Air Edison location? How long will that leave last? Will LifeBridge commit to releasing the names of these employees? When did LifeBridge first find out about the federal investigation? LifeBridge telling Fox 45 News the names of the 3 employees who do work at the location will not be released, and it's unclear how long they'll be placed on leave. Now, Fox 45 News obtaining this search warrant for David Caldwell, who is the supervisor for the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site. The search warrant revealing a magazine with 9 live rounds was seized, along with drug packaging materials from Caldwell's home. During a news conference Monday morning, Mayor Scott leaving the event early, preventing us from asking any questions about the looming federal investigation. So we sent him a few questions asking, when will you release the names of the employees who are currently under investigation? Will you release the names of all Safe Streets employees? If not, what is there to hide? Based on his comment he made to me in July,
I think the public should trust and know, just like they trust our police officers, that these lifesavers are out there doing their work.
I also asked the mayor, why should the community trust the program now given this federal investigation? Mayor Scott telling us via statement, this situation does not negate our responsibility to appropriately handle personnel information of individuals who were not direct city government employees. Remember, the mayor has routinely said the names of the employees should be kept secret, citing safety concerns. Those questions come after we sent him questions last week asking about this probe, and again the mayor evading direct answers. Meanwhile,
very concerned and extremely troubling.
City Council President Nick Mosby facing questions about Safe Streets and what he wants to see done with the program moving forward.
Do you think that there needs to be more transparency from the city about who these employees are, not just at this location, but at all of them, given what we're learning from the federal government about the possibility of illegal activity?
Well, personnel matters happen.
Does the city have an obligation to be more transparent with the public?
I think it's probably a better ask of the organization.
The council president not saying whether all of the names of the Safe Streets workers should be revealed, despite taxpayers funding the program.
Good morning.
One thing Mosby is clear about, he does not see an issue with the Board of Estimates, the city spending board that he chairs, approving $3.6 million in state funding Wednesday for Safe Streets.
While the mayor continues to evade questions about this federal probe, we're committed to demanding answers, especially as we learn more about this FBI investigation into the city's flagship gun violence prevention program. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, many unanswered questions remain about how the Safe Streets program works, including how employees are hired and tracked and how Safe Streets spends taxpayer dollars. All of that raises some red flags for many experts who say the program and Monsey as a whole need to be audited.
Public information such as what we're talking about is public under Maryland law. And when you redact these things, it is arguably a violation of the law on its face in the state of Maryland. So they need to have radical transparency, forensic audits. We need to be able to follow the money and, quite frankly, the elites, those large organizations like LifeBridge, which runs that center that was raided today, or Catholic Charities that run other centers on the Safe Streets program. Those elite organizations, why are they taking taxpayer money? Look, Catholic Charities got $143 million of gross revenue in the latest year available. The CEO of LifeBridge Health made $2.3 million, and 5 executives made over $750,000 in the latest year available. Why do they need taxpayer help? They should lighten the load on the local taxpayer. They should pitch in on their noble charitable mission.
Well, the Safe Streets program hires former convicts, but it's not clear how they make sure employees don't continue to commit crime while they're working for Safe Streets.
One example is Ronald Alexander, a Safe Streets worker who was convicted of distributing drugs in the communities where he was tasked with mediating conflicts. Prosecutors say he used his, or tried to use his status as a Safe Streets worker to hide his drug dealing. And in the Brooklyn office last year, a federal indictment accused Vernon Harper of possessing fentanyl with the intent to distribute. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison.
Then there's the case of Damon Scroggins. A Safe Streets worker, Ronald Brady Jr., was accused of killing Scroggins in September of 2019. The case went to trial in 2022, but ended in a hung jury. Brady was ultimately acquitted, but Scroggins' family is highly critical of the Safe Streets program, calling it a criminal enterprise.
My belief is that our city government is financing a criminal enterprise. I believe that within my heart. Our city government is so invested in it that it's turning a blind eye to what it really is.
Throughout our investigation, Mackenzie Frost has visited each Safe Streets location multiple times, but she found few workers. At some sites, she couldn't find any employees at all. Fox 45 News has found some Safe Streets locations have changed, even though city websites still list their original locations. Now, we tried to get answers from former Monsey director Shantae Jackson about the program, but she often walked away from our questions.
Director Jackson, can I ask you a couple of questions?
I think the mayor said meet us at the next event.
Are you going? You have to realize that we have a job and we have the right to ask questions and get information out. Director Jackson, can we talk about the multi-year Safe Streets contracts?
We don't have any comment today.
I know that you announced your resignation, you're planning to leave. Can you say where you plan to go?
Let me stop right here.
Okay.
Never, ever will I prioritize any news about me over top of news about our young people.
That's why I didn't
so
ask
we
during
can
the
save
press
that question for a time when I'm ready to share it. Thank you.
Well, Fox 45 News has been investigating the Safe Streets program for years, demanding answers about how the program spends taxpayer dollars and how it keeps track of former criminals it employs.
Now, we'll continue our relentless demand for answers. Our commitment to you is to follow your tax dollars and hold elected leaders accountable for the Safe Streets program and any other issue facing Baltimore City.
And you can find all of our previous reporting and follow along as our investigation continues on foxbaltimore.com.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think Mayor Brandon Scott is being transparent about the Safe Streets program? So far, 98% of those who voted say no. You can make your voice heard at foxbaltimore.com/vote.
From auto thefts to armed robberies, week after week in some parts of Baltimore, crimes are caught on camera. But do criminals even care if they're being recorded? Fox 45's Amy Simpson live now in North Baltimore. She takes a closer look at this. Amy?
Yeah, Mary, from smartphones to those doorbells, even surveillance up above, we live in a society that is so often on camera. In September, brazen car thieves seen breaking in, hot wiring, and stealing a car from Fox 45's parking lot overnight. The whole thing caught on camera. Earlier this month, a spree of robberies and carjackings reported across Canton and Federal Hill. One camera catching masked suspects, at first running off. But minutes later, another camera recording the screams of an alleged robbery just before sunrise. And a Baltimore woman sharing this video from yesterday afternoon after her car had already been stolen twice. She says suspected thieves came back in broad daylight, checking out her Hyundai yet again. But do the criminals care if they're caught in the act?
Not only do they not care in most instances, but a lot of times they welcome it. You know, we see video after video where criminals actually record themselves committing crimes.
Sergeant Betsy Smith, a spokesperson for the National Police Association.
People will very often do anything to get notoriety, to get those hits on TikTok and those likes on Instagram.
Says she's seen the phenomenon firsthand.
I was involved as a police officer in a reality TV show, and I was so stunned to see how people acted when the cameras were on. I thought they would try to hide their faces. They actually acted crazier and more emboldened. And this was a decade and a half ago.
Nowadays, pointing to kids and teens as the culprits.
I lived in fear of my parents knowing that I did something wrong. That fear is gone. Especially among younger people.
But for things to change, this law enforcement expert says parents, teachers, and community members must step up.
And we've got to condemn it openly.
Also calling on the criminal justice system to hold offenders accountable.
And the government, prosecutors, judges, need to punish criminal behavior, especially when it's blatantly committed on camera.
But even with so many of these crimes caught on camera here in Baltimore City, finding and arresting those suspects, that's another battle. According to Baltimore police data from October 21st, of the more than 9,000 car thefts reported in the city so far this year, less than 2% have resulted in arrests. We're live in Baltimore. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
If you have a stolen car story or know somebody who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we want to hear about it. Just scan the QR code right there on your screen. Tell us what happened or send an email to news@foxbaltimore.com.
A battle is brewing across the state when it comes to the youth crime crisis. Fox 45 News has heard from more than a dozen states' attorneys representing roughly 80% of the state's population who say their hands are tied by Maryland's current laws when it comes to holding juveniles accountable. And it's not just prosecutors concerned. Some parents are also demanding change at the state level, telling Fox 45 their own kids don't believe they'll be punished for their actions.
And next month, state lawmakers plan to hold a juvenile crime meeting with DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi in the hot seat. He's facing questions about the department's ability to rehabilitate young offenders. Lawmakers will talk about juvenile justice laws during that meeting. We also expect to hear from those frustrated prosecutors, law enforcement officials, and parents who are calling for help.
House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you'd like to contact them about public safety legislation, their phone numbers and email addresses are on your screen.
Still ahead tonight, a pretrial hearing today for former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby, one day before jury selection is expected to begin. The latest developments and a look back at how we got here.
I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington. As Israeli troops prepare for urban warfare, we take a look at how the vast array of underground tunnels plays a role in the calculation for what's next.
And if you've got plans on doing some last-minute pumpkin picking this evening, I think you're going to have a little bit of light rain to deal with. Not that it cancel plans, but I'd have that rain gear ready. Temperatures falling from the 70s back to the 60s, even 50s. Oh, yeah, it's going to get a lot colder around here for Halloween. I'll let you know how cold. My Weather Authority forecast.
The death toll in Gaza is climbing as Israeli troops expand their military assault deeper into the northern part of that region. According to the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza, more than 300 people were killed just in the past day, bringing the death toll to more than 8,300. More than two-thirds of the dead are women and children, and nearly 2,000 people are still missing under the rubble. The United Nations and medical staff say they worry about airstrikes hitting closer to hospitals where tens of thousands of Palestinians are seeking shelter. Now, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he is preparing his country for a long war. The mission is to completely destroy Hamas, and they are targeting their vast system of tunnels hundreds of miles underground. National correspondent Christine Frizzau brings us a closer look.
It is a battlefield unlike any other, and also perhaps Hamas's most essential weapon in this war.
This tunnel network is how weapons move freely through Gaza.
The Israeli Defense Forces releasing videos like this.
This tunnel network is where Hamas leaders plan and orchestrate attacks against Israel. Destroying Hamas means destroying this tunnel network.
One Hamas official telling Russia Today TV, "We built the tunnels because we have no other way to protect ourselves from being targeted and killed." Another form of protection, keeping hostages in those tunnels alongside Hamas fighters, as described by one Israeli hostage released last week.
There are a huge network of tunnels underneath. It looks like a spider web.
Largely underneath the 25-mile stretch of land known as Gaza, between Israel and Egypt. The IDF declaring Hamas headquarters are located beneath the Shifa hospital in Gaza City.
Not only do they hide underneath it, They also abuse the hospital's electricity and fuel supply that should be used for the people of Gaza.
This video, released by Hamas, shows fighters coming in and out of those tunnels into what experts say is a narrow subterranean network that zigzags and is built on multiple levels, which means one-on-one combat with little ability to count on your unit.
You barely can communicate with your unit that's above ground, and so you're alone as a soldier in it, and it is absolutely terrifying and reminiscent of medieval duels, essentially.
For weeks now, we've seen the Israeli Defense Forces set up alongside the Gaza border with only a handful of ground operations. Some experts say the major reason for that is the complexities and fears associated with those tunnels. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
Well, Fox 45 is partnering with Magen David Adom for Sinclair Cares Humanitarian Relief for Israel. The organization is a Red Cross affiliate providing emergency medical aid for all people in Israel. To help, you can scan the QR code on your screen right there or go to sinclaircares.com. Well, Halloween is tomorrow, and kids will be outside for trick-or-treating. And after an almost record-breaking high temperatures over the weekend, we will be seeing a bit of a cool down. Here's Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers with our Halloween spooky forecast. Jonathan?
You bet. And the forecast doesn't look too spooky by tomorrow, okay, Mary. But it is going to feel a lot more like October, and maybe almost fast-forwarding to kind of a November feel by then. You see here, there is a little bit of light rain, Westminster up to southern PA, all the way down to Cockeysville, and now just on the city border, up around Towson, all the way down to about Woodlawn. Nothing here extremely heavy, and it probably is going to end sometime tonight. By tomorrow morning when you wake up, the rain won't be here, but I'll tell you what is, there's going to be some much colder air. Let's go ahead and put on the national view of the radar, and you can see here on the northern side of the system, there's snow. That's right. That's how cold it is from Minneapolis north of Chicago, and we're going to be getting some of that cold air around here beginning late tonight into tomorrow. So you may have to incorporate a jacket into some of those trick-or-treating plans for tomorrow. Toyota East Inner Harbor Skycam right now at 69, winds out of the northwest at 13. Cold front has now come through. That's our latest weather maker giving us the clouds. Humidity at 63%, dew points are in the 50s. Look at this temperature disparity. We made it to 81, just a couple of degrees off of records at BWI. We're now at 69. Still, they're in the warmer air at Denton, 80. The cooler air quickly coming in from the north and west, where temperatures are falling into the 60s, 50s. I just checked right now, Oakland up in ski country by Deep Creek Lake. They are at 41 degrees. So that is what's heading our way. We could have some of the first frosts and maybe even freeze conditions of the season coming up here next few nights. Weather map showing that cold front east. The rain actually is on the other side of the cold front, so some chillier showers and then colder and clearing beyond that by the time we get to tomorrow. In the tropics, there's a medium chance of development now over the Caribbean. Should not impact us here in the United States. And the one system closer to the U.S. in the Bahamas only now has a 10% chance of development. So not expecting much out of that. So through this evening, it looks like, again, the shower chances through shortly after midnight. That then moves south. And east, look at these temperatures, 30s to near 40 by early tomorrow morning. Good blustery breeze going for trick-or-treating. No rain, few clouds. But look at these temperatures. 50s falling back into the 40s, and it's going to feel more like potentially the 40s, maybe even falling into the 30s by the time you're done trick-or-treating tomorrow. 54 on Wednesday, 55 Thursday. Then Friday, Saturday, back to the 60s, and the sun sets an hour earlier. Real sign of fall here on Sunday.
Well, making headlines tonight, police are investigating actor Matthew Perry's death. The coroner's records say Perry was found dead at his Los Angeles home on Saturday. Perry is well known for playing Chandler Bing on the show Friends, of course, but he also had roles in films like Fools Rush In and The Whole Nine Yards. The actor, of course, struggled with alcohol and opioid addictions and wrote in a 2022 memoir he hopes to be remembered for supporting others with substance abuse abuse issues. Now, so many fans over the weekend and even today taking to social media to remember the late actor. We have one here from Jennifer Hudson. She says this man brought so much joy and love to so many people around the world. He was such a huge part of the Warner Brothers family. He will be greatly missed. Rest in peace. This one I thought was very loving. In loving memory of Matthew Perry, it would be awesome if people dressed up as a pink bunny for Halloween in honor of Perry tomorrow. And lots of people just posting different scenes from Friends, which they just absolutely love. And how about this one? Brooke says, just posting the door from Friends and the gates of heaven. So just beautiful out there. Well, still ahead tonight, a plan to bring a major attraction in Baltimore back to its original glory, or even better than that, what the future of Harbor Place looks like as we press leaders if it will be enough to keep residents staying in Charm City. But first, anticipation building ahead of another World Series matchup tonight. Morgan Outsett breaks down all the highlights heading into this big game.
The road to postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
2 years ago, the Rangers and Diamondbacks were both 100-loss teams. Now enter the youth movement, especially for Arizona and Texas, making some deadline deals. And now both franchises are 3 wins away from winning the World Series. The series got a Sunday off day, but come tonight, it's Game 3 with the series even at 1 game apiece as the series heads to Arizona for 3. And the way the Diamondbacks are playing, this might not head back to Texas. The Snakes gave up Game 1 and won Game 2 in large part thanks to Merrill Kelly's 7 innings.
You can't simulate postseason starts. He has really stepped on it and gotten after it and gotten even better, which to me is not surprising because that's who he is at his core. He wants the biggest moment, the biggest stage to show what he's capable of doing. And this was a big win. You know, you're talking about a team that got beat last night after being 2 outs away from a win. There is a concern of momentum in the other direction. I think the first couple innings he said, I got you guys until you get your feet on the ground, and we did. We won this game because of Merrill.
What the Rangers do have going for them this season, after being about a .500 team in the regular season on the road, they've won every road postseason game this October. A perfect 8-0 between Tampa Bay, Baltimore, and Houston.
Morgan, thank you. Fox 45 is your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. You can watch Game 3 tonight right here, starting with pre-game coverage at 7, first pitch just after 8. The series is in Arizona for Game 3, 4, and 5. Then, if necessary, the teams will head back to Texas for Games 6 and 7, which will be Friday and Saturday. Coming up after the break, the ongoing war in the Middle East having an international impact, the anti-Semitic acts playing out on college campuses across the country, and the efforts from President Biden to stop it. The Howard County executive claims his state of his county is strong. Fox 45 News pressing him on the progress, along with the possibility of his own congressional run.
Tonight, Cornell University is investigating a series of anti-Semitic threats made against the school's Jewish community.
Cornell's president said Sunday the hateful messages were posted on websites not affiliated with the school. The president said the threats specifically named the home of the Center for Jewish Living at Cornell. School officials say they have notified the FBI of a potential hate crime.
Now, these threats come as the war between Israel and Hamas continues in the Middle East and are one example of the uptick that being seen across the country.
That's right. Now, President Biden announcing some new actions to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses.
Joining us to weigh in right now is the executive director of the Baltimore Jewish Council, Howard Libet. Howard, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Ty.
So you heard that the Biden administration, you're well aware, is coming out with these new actions today. And we're also learning the federal government will work with campus law enforcement to track anti-Semitism online. What are your thoughts about this? Do you think it will be helpful?
I think it will be helpful because I think it's a sign and a directive to start treating anti-Semitism just like they're treating other forms of hate. I think for a while, many years now on college campuses, diversity offices and others have been very focused, rightfully so, on protecting against hate against students of color, against the LGBTQ community, against the Muslim community, all very important. But I think often incidents of anti-Semitism, incidents against Jewish students haven't been treated with the same serious nature. They've perceived often Jewish students as Jewish students are white and they're privileged and they don't need the same protections. And in fact, all of those aren't true. There are many Jews of color. The Jewish community has faced a long history of discrimination and hateful acts, and we are a small minority in this country. It's time to protect the Jewish students too, and now more than ever. I mean, the threats at Cornell are horrifying, and quite frankly, the anti-Semitic acts students here on our local campuses are seeing are becoming pretty disturbing too.
And I know, Howard, you know this, since the war started, there's been nearly a 400% rise in anti-Semitic incidents. Is there another way you think the Biden administration or others should and could work to keep these from happening, to keep the community safe?
I appreciate the tremendous partnership of federal, state, and local law enforcement. They have begun responding, and that's terrific. And I think the president's directive for them, too, is really important. I think the other piece we need is strong leadership from across our campuses. The statements in support of the Jewish community need to be clear, direct, forceful, and supportive. And we need the college leaderships to show up when we have vigils in support of Jewish students. They need to ensure there's adequate security for Hillels and other places, and they need to work in partnership with all of our Jewish students on campuses. They need to be looking out for them and make it clear to them, we have your back, and you are an important part of this community. We're not going to tolerate anti-Semitism. We're not going to tolerate students rallying in support of the horrible acts that Hamas committed, which we're seeing on campuses. That's not acceptable dialogue. That's not acceptable protest language.
All right. Howard Libet in Baltimore. Howard, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby back in court today ahead of her federal trial.
That's right. Her final pre-trial status conference happened this afternoon.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost was at that hearing today, and Mackenzie joins us live with the latest. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, we know that this was the final pre-trial status conference scheduled before this trial is expected to begin tomorrow. And remember, the trial starting later this week is just for those 2 perjury charges against former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. The expected trial for those mortgage fraud charges have yet to be scheduled, and we're expecting that to follow this trial. But earlier today, Marilyn Mosby was here. She walked in. She didn't say anything to anyone as she made her way inside the federal courthouse here in Greenbelt. On her way out, she didn't respond to any questions that I asked her. But during this hearing, really, attorneys from both sides signaling that they are ready to move forward, telling the judge federal prosecutors say they need about 3 days to lay out their case. The defense says they will need about 2 to 3 days to outline their case for this. That means we're expecting to see this trial stretch into the 3rd week of November, the November 13th. That's when we're expecting to perhaps see this go into the hands of the jury. We know that this court is going to hold this trial from 9:30 in the morning up until about 5 o'clock each day, Monday through Thursday. No court on Fridays.
And Mackenzie, do we have any idea who's going to be called as witnesses?
That is a big question and is one that I talked with Marilyn Mosby's federal defense attorney, James White. I asked him if the witness list will be made public. He said that's a question that we'll have to ask the court. As of right now, it's unclear, but based on previous court filings, it's suspected that Marilyn Mosby will take the stand in this case, and especially talking about those travel businesses. If you remember, that's really the crux of this entire case, whether those travel businesses that she started really had any plans to be operational while she was in office. Her defense team says that those travel businesses suffered from the COVID-19 pandemic. That's what allowed her to withdraw money from her retirement account without paying a penalty. But we have previous statements from Mosby, as well as her own spokesperson at the time, saying that those businesses were not going to be operational while she was in office. So we're expecting to hear from her directly throughout this. We just don't know when that will take place. But jury selection is scheduled to begin tomorrow morning at 9:30 right here in Greenbelt. We're live at the federal courthouse in Greenbelt. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Mosby was indicted on 4 charges, 2 perjury and 2 mortgage fraud counts. Each perjury charge carries a fine and a maximum of 5 years in prison. Each false statement on a loan application carries a maximum sentence of $1 million fine and 30 years in prison. A superseding indictment filed against Marilyn Mosby in March of last year also raised questions about her estranged husband, City Council President Nick Mosby. Marilyn Mosby claims Nick Mosby sent her $5,000 to help close on one of the Florida homes, but the indictment claims the money actually came from Marilyn Mosby herself. Federal prosecutors say at the time, Nick Mosby had less than $5,000 in his checking account. He's taken full responsibility for the couple's finances, and some argue Mosby's handling of their finances could lead to some tough questions regarding the trial and his role as Baltimore City Council president.
That would probably lend some additional information to the fact that perhaps he is involved in the case and perhaps he's going to have to take the stand as a witness under some sort of partial or qualified immunity.
You're the city council president and you have access to millions of taxpayer dollars and you can't figure out your own finances. This opens him up to a lot of things where it could be people asking for favors in exchange for money.
Again, jury selection in this case begins tomorrow in Greenbelt. The trial itself is scheduled to start on Thursday. Fox 45 News will be live at the courthouse throughout the trial, bring you updates on air and at foxbaltimore.com as the trial unfolds.
What we need to have in Baltimore is the inner harbor coming back with a new life, showcasing the best of Baltimore.
A Baltimore staple will be receiving a complete makeover. Today, Mayor Brandon Scott, along with Governor Wes Moore and other leaders, celebrated the plans to revitalize Harbor Place.
But will it be enough to keep residents in Baltimore as the crime crisis continues? Today, Fox 45's Olivia Dans pressed city leaders on that question.
A new project is bringing hope back to Baltimore's Harbor Place.
We will not stop until this project comes to fruition so that the world can see that Baltimore is back, baby.
For years, Harbor Place has been declining. The Light and Pratt Street pavilions losing tenants, but design plans announced Monday include a new residential tower, a new park, a 2,000-seat amphitheater, a retail food beverage hub, and more.
This is a new mixed-use waterfront.
David Bramble, managing partner at MCB Real Estate, says community input has been and will continue to be critical to the process.
What we did here universally was that people wanted to love Harbor Place again.
After engaging with the community on what they want from this project, residents say that they want it to be authentically Baltimore. They want access and connectivity to the water, and they want to make sure that safety and security is a top priority.
We know that more eyes, more ears on any location increases public safety. And when you look at the amazing design and a level of density that's really built around here, and really turn this into a 24-hour place where folks are going to live, work, and play, is critical to public safety for this area. So I'm excited about it.
Besides declining business, crime is a concern at Harbor Place. Like in April, when 2 teens were injured in a shooting as hundreds of juveniles gathered at the Inner Harbor.
You see what the crime wave has been with the youth.
And last summer at the corner of Light and Pratt Streets when a squeegee kid shot and killed driver Timothy Reynolds. Community activist Clarence Thomas wants the project to focus on safety and offer outlets for youth.
If they don't secure it and make sure that it's a safe environment, that's going to take the value and even the profits of what they're trying to do, and people even wanting to come down here.
What is the plan to entice people to actually want to come live here when the project is done, work here, use the facilities, maybe if there are still concerns, though, about safety and security? So how do you actually draw people to come here and use?
We see safety and security as largely a problem driven by the fact that right now there's a vacuum here. And whenever there's a vacuum, it gets filled up with things that we don't feel safe around. We think by making it an active, 24-hour environment with residents and entertainment and food, we'll be able to activate this place, fill it up with people, feed on the streets, and that's our best path forward for making people feel safe.
With safety and security promised to be a key part of the plan, the hope is once the project is complete, Harbor Place will once again be a vibrant, bustling staple of Baltimore. Reporting in Baltimore, I'm Olivia Dance, Fox 45 News.
The fallout continues after a Safe Streets location is raided by the FBI for possible gang affiliation. The calls to shut the program down.
And get this, after being just a degree or two off of record highs today, thus far the high 81, and we're on the fall now. It looks like tomorrow, 26 degrees colder for Halloween in the 50s. I'll let you know what it looks like for trick-or-treating and if there's going to be any rain in my Weather Authority forecast.
We're learning new information in a wrongful termination lawsuit involving the current Baltimore County School Superintendent and other high-ranking officials. In April, Sharia Anderson, the school system's former chief human resources officer, filed a lawsuit against the school system. Anderson claims she was fired after a series of disagreements with system leaders. Project Baltimore has now obtained court records detailing those disagreements and allegations of nepotism. The lawsuit does not specifically state what role, if any, Superintendent Miriam Rogers had in Anderson's alleged wrongful termination, but we may find out if the case goes to trial.
I know that you can't talk about specifics of the lawsuit. I'm not asking you about specifics, but do you have any concerns about the outcome of that trial? And what message do you have for parents as it goes to trial?
I do not have any concerns, and my understanding from the Office of Law is there is no trial date that has been set. So thank you.
Well, tonight at 10 o'clock, the final decision, according to the lawsuit, that Sharia Anderson made as Chief Human Resources Officer before she was put on leave and eventually terminated. The battle for the soon-to-be vacant congressional House seat in Maryland is just beginning. Congressman John Sarbanes decided not to run for re-election in 2024. Sarbanes says that he's ready to step aside after 18 years in Congress. With Sarbanes officially out, some other local leaders are looking to fill that seat. Fox 45's Taylor Stewart spoke with Howard County Executive Calvin Ball this morning about his possible bid as well as his current goals for the county.
Howard County Executive Calvin Ball laying out a roadmap for future investments in his latest State of the County address. Now, he outlined plans to improve Ellicott City's safe and sound flood mitigation plan, investments in mental health services, and over $25 million in revamping county recreation and park facilities. But one plan the county executive says he's most proud of is funding for faith-based initiatives in the wake of the Israel-Hamas war.
Given the challenges in Israel and Palestine, there's a lot of increased Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. And so recognizing those challenges and those fears, $750,000 for security in houses of worship, and the launch of an interfaith council to bring people together, I think will help address some of those issues.
Ball is also rounding out his second term as county executive, and we asked him what his future plans are. There are whispers right now that you are considering a run for Congress. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm definitely thinking about it. I want to make sure that I make a decision finishing up my term as county executive or launching a bid as a Congress member. Where can I make the greatest impact for our community, and where is the greatest need right now?
He says he's going to talk it over with his family and make a final decision late November. Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
Well, after a beautiful and warm weekend, we're finally going to see a cool down this week. Here's Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers.
Yeah, look at some of those nice fall colors and temperatures today, Kai, up into the low 80s. No more. Gonna feel a lot more like fall around here. If not, maybe like early winter by tomorrow and beyond, at least for a few days around here, and that's going to include Halloween. HT radar shows some light rain. This is with our cold front that's coming through, and you're starting to feel the differences. Parkville to Towson, Mays Chapel, up to Owings Mills. Nothing overly heavy, but the timing here is not great. Notice we're just prior to 5 p.m. as the commute's really getting going, and now really along 695, along 70, 270, getting some persistent lighter rains. It's probably going to wet down your windshields, may even wet down those roads. So keep that in mind for any travels. May have to budget that in. Again, no downpours here, but light to maybe perhaps moderate rain for a few hours through just after midnight, and then the big chill arrives. I mean, even now, it's significantly cooler than it was just a couple hours ago. That front is now to the east, and that's why the clouds, that's why the cooler temperatures. Our temperature now 69 off of 81 for a high. Winds out of the northwest at 13. And, well, humidity's high enough to give us a little bit of that shower activity. None of that showing up on our current conditions map, but I did want to show you here, 69 Baltimore. There's the warmth. Say goodbye to that. And look at Oakland right now. That's up at elevation at Deep Creek Lake, but still only 41 degrees. They are 20 degrees colder than 24 hours ago. And you see that wall of temperature deficits is moving our way. Look at these temperatures in the 40s, low to mid 40s up at Cleveland. Yes, we're going to have temperatures struggling to the 50s for tomorrow. Cold front swinging through. That's our latest weather maker, giving us those showers, and then the colder clearing conditions behind it. That's what gets here for Halloween. In the tropics, medium chance of development that's now moving through the Caribbean should not have an impact on the U.S. Now a low chance of development that looked like it had a higher chance of development yesterday. That's off the coast of the Bahamas, should not have any impacts either. Getting carried away by this system that's moving through here. And notice some of the spot showers, generally light through shortly after midnight tonight. Then it gets cold, 35 to 40 overnight. Could even have some low to mid 30s north and west. Maybe even a patch or two of frost, but I think a better chance the next couple of nights after tonight. And then for trick-or-treating tomorrow, look at those temperatures. 50s falling back into the 40s, and it's going to feel more like the 30s perhaps at times for our Halloween. 55 for a high, dropping down to 39 Tuesday night. And there are those potential frosty mornings. Wednesday into Thursday into Friday, and then it gets a little bit warmer as you gain an hour of sleep on Sunday.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up at 5 o'clock, amplified calls for an audit of Monzi and a pause to the Safe Streets program. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost presses the mayor for answers. The spookiest night of the year is tomorrow. We'll have a look at Hamden's trick-or-treat trail and what it has to offer. We're calling all witches, ghosts, goblins, and ghouls. Halloween is living it up at Hamden right now. Be More lifestyle host Mark Clark was at Hamden's Trick or Treat Trail this morning.
I am with Hot Dog Central with Andre, the Hot Dog King, and we're getting ready for Halloween. And so, Andre, I know a lot of people are expecting thousands of people to come through. What are you going to be serving them up as they come through and see you?
We're going to have one of our popular hot dogs, which is our cowboy dog. And it is our quarter pounder all beef hot dog topped with our barbecue baked beans, fried onions, and fried jalapeno crisp, and it's drizzled in barbecue sauce.
Man, okay, and so now, but people, you know, you've done this before. So, and Halloween, I feel like Halloween, some people might just want the old basic old hot dog. Is that what's the most popular dog on Halloween?
Probably like our chili cheese and onion dog.
The chili cheese and man. Now, do you serve a breath mint with that, or do you just have to take it? So
you have to take it as it is.
Take it as it is. Well, you know, it won't. Hey, I can't have you here and not try this. So this is one of the most popular ones. Let's try it, guys. You know what? Hold on, guys. Wait a minute. Oh my goodness. I'm very hot. Okay. My goodness. Thank you.
Mark, that's all right, brother. Getting down with the get down. I love it. Well, taking a live look right now from the White House, where tonight the president and first lady plan to welcome trick-or-treaters. Local Washington, D.C. area students are invited, along with children from military families. Agencies like the Department of Transportation and NASA will have representatives to help pass out candy. Trick-or-treating starts at 5:30 in the afternoon. And take a look at this. A California artist is ready for trick-or-treaters this year. His driveway, listen to this, is filled with more than 250 perfectly carved pumpkins. Those pumpkins are fake, made of styrofoam, and each one takes a good 3 to 4 hours to create. Now, this is just amazing work. Videos of his carvings have gone viral with over 3.5 million views if you'd like to check them out yourself. Well, we want to see how you're celebrating Halloween. Make sure to send us your pictures and your videos by scanning the QR code on your screen or by going to foxbaltimore.com/chime-in. Well, coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, pre-trial hearings are officially over. What you need to know before the Marilyn Mosby trial. And who will enter the race for Maryland's 3rd congressional seat? A political analyst weighs in.
A final pre-trial hearing in the books. The latest developments from court as the Marilyn Mosby trial is about to begin.
Criminals are stealing cars and robbing people in broad daylight. The growing calls for change as more people tell Fox 45 News they feel unsafe in their communities.
The mayor refusing to answer our questions about safe streets. The latest on the FBI investigation into the city's anti-violence program.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is in court before her federal trial. Today was the final pretrial hearing for the former city state's attorney. She's facing multiple charges of perjury and making false statements on a loan application. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost was at that final hearing today. She joins us live now from Greenbelt with the latest on what was said and what it means for the start of the trial soon on Thursday.
Yeah, Mary and Kai, so today we really got a sense of the timeline for this trial. And remember that this is just for those two perjury charges. Another trial is expected to be scheduled for those two false mortgage application statements. Earlier today, Marilyn Mosby walked into the federal courthouse here in Greenbelt. She didn't say anything to anyone. After the hearing, she came back out and she didn't answer any questions that I asked her or any other reporter shouted at her as she got into the vehicle. It was a very different scene than what we have used to seeing from her, right? She usually comes up, is driven up to the courthouse, walks in with her security detail, Nick Mosby usually by her side. That was all different. She came in and out essentially by herself today. During the hearing, we heard from both sides. Attorneys on both sides of this say they are prepared to move forward with this trial. Jury selection is scheduled to begin tomorrow morning. That is expected to take 2 days. Federal prosecutors say they will need about 3 days to lay out their case. The defense says they will need about 2 to 3 days as well, meaning we're expecting to see this trial stretch into the week of November 13th. That's because we're not going to have any trial on Fridays, and each day will run from about 9:30 to 5. Mary?
And Mackenzie, has either side given any indication about who will be called as witnesses?
So far, not yet. I asked Marilyn Mosby's defense attorney, James Wida, if he had a list or if he will be presenting a list, making it public. He said that's a decision that will be left up to the court. As of right now, a witness list has not been made available, but we do expect, based on previous court filings, to see Marilyn Mosby herself take the stand and really talk about those travel businesses, because that will be the crux of this entire case, essentially, whether those travel businesses that she launched were in fact operational at the time in which she withdrew money from her retirement savings account without penalty. According to the Federal CARES Act, she did so citing she suffered some sort of financial hardship during the pandemic, and we'll have to wait and see what she says if she decides to take the stand during this trial. But for now, we're live in Greenbelt. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Each perjury charge Mosby is facing carries a fine and a maximum of 5 years in prison if convicted. Each false statement on a loan application carries a maximum sentence of $1 million fine and 30 years in prison. A superseding indictment against Marilyn Mosby filed in March of last year raised questions about her estranged husband, City Council President Nick Mosby. Marilyn Mosby claims Nick Mosby sent her $5,000 to help close on one of the Florida homes, but the indictment claims the money actually came from Marilyn Mosby herself. Federal prosecutors say at the time, Nick Mosby had less than $5,000 in his checking account. He has taken full responsibility for the couple's finances. Some argue Mosby's handling of the finances could lead to some tough questions regarding the trial and his role as Baltimore City Council president.
That would probably lend some additional information to the fact that perhaps he is involved in the case, and perhaps he's going to have to take the stand as a witness under some sort of partial or qualified immunity.
You're the city council president and you have access to millions of taxpayer dollars, and you can't figure out your own finances. This opens him up to a lot of things where it could be people asking for favors in exchange for money.
Well, the Mosby family legal saga has been unfolding for years, ever since Marilyn Mosby first took office in 2015. Mosby has also faced criticism over the way she ran her office over 8 years as city state's attorney.
Marilyn Mosby first made national headlines just months after she took office when she indicted 6 Baltimore City police officers in the death of Freddie Gray.
We have probable cause to file criminal charges.
The indictments came just days after Gray's death sparked widespread riots across the city. National media praised her decision, including Vogue magazine, while others criticized the indictments, calling them a reckless rush to judgment. In the end, Mosby failed to convict any of the officers. Another controversy Mosby faced involved her frequent speaking engagements, out-of-town travel, and her private business dealings. Though she maintained that she did nothing wrong, she asked City Inspector General Isabel Cumming to investigate.
It's all about accountability and transparency.
The IG found Mosby spent 85 days out of office in 2018 through 2019 and didn't get proper approval for 15 trips. 1 month after that finding, in March of 2021, Mosby stopped enforcing what she calls a low-level crime like drug possession and prostitution to focus on shootings and murders.
Clearly, the data suggests that there is no public safety value in prosecuting these low-level offenses.
Murders remained above 300 every year Mosby was in office. 2021 also brought word that Mosby and her husband were the subjects of a federal probe, with investigators going after a wide range of business and campaign records. She was federally indicted in January of 2022. Following news of the indictment, Fox 45 found Mosby's office was severely understaffed, down more than 80 prosecutors.
They're completely understaffed. They're underwater. They're not able to do their job on a day-to-day basis.
In June 2022, a Baltimore Circuit Court judge wrote an opinion saying the staffing problems in her office led to egregious failures. We have also seen a number of questionable plea deals come from Mosby's office. That includes the case of convicted arsonist Luther Trent.
I shouldn't be out because I could have done a lot more damage than I did.
He was released on a plea deal from Mosby's office after serving less than 6 months in jail. Federal authorities later sentenced him to 12 years in prison. Marilyn Mosby was voted out of office last November.
Jury selection again for Mosby's trial begins tomorrow in Greenbelt. The trial itself scheduled to start on Thursday. Fox 45 News will be live at the courthouse throughout the trial, bring you updates on air and online at foxbaltimore.com as the trial unfolds.
A live look outside at Towson right now, the Inner Harbor, and also our weather radar. Skies are a bit dark tonight and the wind is picking up. You can even see some rain in Towson. The question is, what will it be like for trick-or-treating? Here's Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers.
And Kai, the good news is the rain is going to be moving out, but the cold is going to be moving in. You can already see it here. Take a look at the state current conditions. There are those 80s. We were at 81 earlier. We're now at 66 here in Baltimore with some light showers approaching. Oakland out at elevation, mind you, it's a few thousand feet up, but yes, that's out at Deep Creek Lake. 41. It is that cold that is headed east. And look at this tomorrow for trick-or-treating. 3 p.m. we're at 52. At least the breezes by then do die down. But 6 p.m. temperature 49, feels like 48. It'll be dry with some extra clouds, but that's about it. 9 p.m. temperatures 45, feeling like 43. And then by the time everything's wrapped up, we're almost into the 30s, and we could have some frosty mornings coming our way for the first time this season. I'm going to let you know when those will get here. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thank you. In a city in crisis, car thefts are up in the city. There have been more than 9,000 cars stolen in Baltimore this year. And at the current rate, that number will be over 10,000 by the end of November.
Well, many of these crimes are even caught on camera, but do criminals care if they're being recorded? Fox 45's Amy Simpson live now in North Baltimore, taking a closer look at this. Amy?
Yes, Mary, from smartphones to those doorbell cameras, even surveillance cameras, we are a society that is so often on camera and recorded. And here in Baltimore City, we've seen crimes from auto theft to armed robberies caught on camera in just the last few weeks. Brazen thieves were even caught stealing a car from Fox 45's parking lot in the middle of the night in September. And today I spoke to a law enforcement expert about this phenomenon and whether criminals are deterred by cameras and being recorded.
Not only do they not care in most instances, but a lot of times they welcome it. You know, we see video after video where criminals actually record themselves committing crimes. What it says is criminals are no longer worried about being prosecuted, first of all. It also says that we've lost the conscience in our society, especially among young people.
And this law enforcement expert also went on to talk about the impact of social media and that search for likes and followers and shares. So often over the last year or so nationwide, that rise in car thefts has been tied to a trend on TikTok. Reporting live in Baltimore, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Amy. Fox 45 continues to hear from victims and witnesses of robberies and car thefts. Newly obtained surveillance video shows the moment a man was robbed on his way to work. It's one of another in a growing list of incidents that has Baltimore residents calling for change.
If the city doesn't figure out an action plan soon, these taxpayer dollars are going to vote with their feet.
We are frustrated. We want the city, we want our mayor to do something about this. This is scary and it's getting very serious because these are young people. These are young men that don't care about our lives.
Well, a battle is brewing across the state over youth crime and accountability. Fox 45 News has heard from more than a dozen states' attorneys representing roughly 80% of the state's population. They say their hands are tied by Maryland's current laws preventing them from holding juvenile offenders accountable.
If we don't do something to hold these young people accountable, they will continue to run and almost have lawlessness in our cities. And we can't have that.
Some of our laws that have been passed recently do make it a little more challenging for us to hold them accountable. And that's sort of playing a role in some of the issues we're seeing at the moment.
Well, next month, state lawmakers will hold a juvenile crime meeting with DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi. He's facing questions about the department's ability to rehabilitate young offenders. Lawmakers will discuss juvenile justice laws. We also expect to hear from those frustrated prosecutors, law enforcement officials, and parents who are calling for help. Still ahead, increased calls for audits on Monsey and a pause to the Safe Streets program. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost presses the mayor for answers.
And we're talking with a political analyst about the upcoming opening in Maryland's 3rd Congressional District. Who's in the running and why Congressman Sarbanes is stepping aside.
A group of college professors band together to publish a letter addressing allegations of rising anti-Semitism on college campuses. I'm Kayla Gaskins. Coming up, who they're supporting and why.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Continuing coverage right now on the war in Israel. Hamas has released another hostage. This time it was an Israeli soldier who was taken during the initial attack on Israel 3 weeks ago. The Israeli Defense Force says there's still more than 200 people being held hostage. All this comes as Israel continues its ground offensive. Today, the IDF said it will not stop until it has eradicated Hamas.
Meantime, humanitarian efforts in Gaza continue. The death toll in the territory could grow quickly, with food, water, and medical reserves all running out. These trucks along the border with Egypt are waiting for inspection before being sent into the country with fuel, food, and other key resources.
On Capitol Hill, the new Speaker, Mike Johnson, said the House will approve a $14.5 billion aid package for Israel. Now, this sets up a showdown with the Democratic-controlled Senate and White House. Democrats want to link Israel and Ukraine because Ukraine aid on its own faces an uncertain path in the GOP-led House.
Well, according to the Anti-Defamation League, anti-Semitic events have gone up more than 380% since the start of the war. Concerns are growing after some incidents on college campuses that Jewish students may not be safe. Members of local Jewish groups today telling Fox 45 they hope schools take action to improve safety.
The statements in support of the Jewish community need to be clear, direct, forceful, and supportive. And we need the college leaderships to show up when we have vigils in support of Jewish students. They need to ensure there's adequate security.
Well, the FBI is now investigating threats against Jewish students as possible hate crimes. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
On Monday, the faculty of Columbia University and Barnard College published an open letter defending anti-Israel student statements and demonstrations.
One of the ironies is that as an American Jew, you're safer in Saudi Arabia right now than you are on a college campus like Columbia University.
The professors calling Hamas's massacre of civilians on October 7th a military response by a people who had endured crushing and unrelenting state violence from an occupying power over many years. The letter also says a student statement defending and celebrating Hamas's attack should not be seen as anti-Semitic. Earlier this month, an Israeli professor at Columbia's business school had this chilling warning for parents of Columbia students.
I want you to know we cannot protect your children from pro-terror student organizations because the president of Columbia University will not speak out.
Officials at Cornell swiftly alerting the FBI to threats made against Jewish students on campus. The violent comments posted to a university discussion board Sunday included statements like, if you see a Jewish person on campus, follow them home and slit their throats. Rats need to be eliminated from Cornell. The school's president calling it horrendous. Congressman Jared Moskowitz weighing in.
This has gone into a horrible place that reminds the Jewish community, quite frankly, of the reason why Israel was created in the first place. It's because there is a tremendous amount of anti-Semitism in the world.
The extent of growing global anti-Semitism on display in Russia Sunday, where a mob stormed an airport searching for Jews on a plane that had landed from Israel.
The White House announcing new actions Monday, partnerships with the Departments of Homeland Security, Justice, and Education, aimed at addressing surging anti-Semitism on college campuses. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Our full coverage on the war and the latest developments is on foxbaltimore.com.
And we are tracking some rain right now, moving through Baltimore and the Beltway just in time for your afternoon commute. Even a couple of patches of moderate rain. Elk Ridge, all the way down to Severn. You're probably going to need the windshield wipers as well as a little bit of extra time. Even in Cockeysville, just north of Townsend, Timonium, getting some at least, we'll say, moderate showers. So more persistent stuff that probably is going to wet the road for you. So keep that in mind for any travels. You're going to need some extra time. And then on top of all of this and this bad timing, Beyond this, into tomorrow, no, it's not going to snow around here like it is in Minneapolis and northern portions of Michigan, but that cold air, that's going to be here just in time for Halloween. So after all these 80s we've seen, the 81 that we had thus far this afternoon, not going to be anywhere close. About 30 degrees colder for trick-or-treating tomorrow. 66 Toyota Asia to Harbor Skycam right now. Winds now gusty northwest at 19 as the showers roll in and the colder air continues to flood in behind our latest weather maker. It's a cold front. I'll show you it on the map here in a second. Temperatures falling into the 60s in Baltimore after earlier highs around 80. Now off of 80, back down to 70 along the lower eastern shore. Look at the 50s at Westminster right now, and that is only the beginning. Cumberland, you're at 53, some 40s north and west of that, including over at Deep Creek Lake, where we're 41 last check. Cold front continues to roll east. That's the latest weather maker. Showers, and then boom, the colder air moving in. In the tropics, we've got a medium chance of development. We're still not done with tropical season yet until the end of November. There's a medium chance of development that's across the Caribbean, so that's something to watch, but not for us. And then there's a low chance of development east of the Bahamas. That has now reduced from a high chance of development, which was forecasted a few days ago. So that's some good news, too. Going to be picked up by this current system and pushed out east into the Atlantic. So future scan, you see the current system rolling through with some of those on and off showers through about 8, 9 o'clock. I think we stand the chance of a little bit of rain all the way through about midnight. That then pushes east. Maybe a few more clouds than today, we'll say, for tomorrow, but it's going to be a much different feel. That's what you're going to notice the most for Halloween. Temperatures barely in the 50s, low to mid 50s at best. And look at that, just in time for trick-or-treating into the evening. Temperatures quickly falling on off into the 40s. And it's going to feel a lot cooler than it actually is tomorrow. Through the day, the breeze is going to be not too terrible, but any breeze that picks up is going to make it feel like the 30s into tomorrow evening. So keep that in mind. A blustery, chilly day on Wednesday, 54. And then it does warm up as we fall back. You gain an hour of sleep Saturday into Sunday.
Jonathan, thank you. At least one county executive considering a run for Congress in 2024. A look ahead to the battle for Maryland's 3rd congressional district. Catching it early can be the difference between life and death. A local doctor shares what you should be doing to protect yourself against certain forms of cancer.
The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
2 years ago, the Rangers and Diamondbacks were both 100-loss teams. Enter the youth movement, especially for Arizona and Texas, making some deadline deals, and now both franchises are 3 wins away from winning the World Series. The series got a Sunday off day, but come tonight, it's Game 3 with the series even at 1 game apiece. As the series now heads to Arizona for 3, and by the way the Diamondbacks are playing, this might not head back to Texas. The Snakes gave up Game 1 and won Game 2 in large part thanks to Merrill Kelly's 7 innings.
You can't simulate postseason starts. He has really stepped on it and gotten after it and gotten even better, which to me is not surprising because that's who he is at his core. He wants the biggest moment, the biggest stage to show what he's capable of doing. And this was a big win. You know, you're talking about a team that got beat last night after being 2 outs away from a win. There is a concern of momentum in the other direction. I think the first couple innings he said, "I got you guys until you get your feet on the ground," and we did. We won this game because of Merrill.
What the Rangers do have going for them this season, after being about 500 in the regular season on the road, they've won every road postseason game this October, a perfect 8-0 between Tampa Bay, Baltimore, and Houston.
Morgan, thank you. Fox 45 is your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. You can watch that Game 3 tonight right here, starting with a pre-game coverage at 7, first pitch just after 8. Who will replace John Sarbanes? A political analyst weighs in on what we can expect to see in the race for Maryland's 3rd Congressional District. And what's next for the Safe Streets program? Fox 45 News pressing the mayor for answers after the FBI investigation.
We have continuing coverage tonight on the FBI investigation into Safe Streets. Agents raided the Bel Air Edison location investigating potential ties to a notorious Baltimore gang. 3 workers have been placed on leave. Now, the FBI also searched some employees' homes as part of their investigation.
And the new developments are leading to increased calls for audits of Monsey and a pause to the Safe Streets program. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressed the mayor today for answers on what comes next.
Mayor Brennan Scott has not faced questions publicly after the FBI raided a Safe Streets location last week. He's only offered a written statement. Today, we wanted to ask him in person. When is he going to be more transparent with the public about what's going on inside the Safe Streets program?
Days after the news broke about an FBI raid here at the Bella Edison Safe Streets site, Mayor Brennan Scott staying mostly quiet, only issuing a statement pledging cooperation with federal partners. The Safe Streets site managed by LifeBridge Health, and LifeBridge confirming 3 employees are on leave in wake of the federal probe. Monday, we asked LifeBridge when were the employees placed on leave? Is that leave paid? Are all 3 employees from the Bella Edison location? How long will that leave last? Will LifeBridge commit to releasing the names of these employees? When did LifeBridge first find out about the federal investigation? LifeBridge telling Fox 45 News the names of the 3 employees who do work at the location will not be released, and it's unclear how long they'll be placed on leave. Now, Fox 45 News obtaining this search warrant for David Caldwell, who is the supervisor for the Bella Edison Safe Streets site. The search warrant revealing a magazine with 9 live rounds was seized, along with drug packaging materials from Caldwell's home. During a news conference Monday morning, Mayor Scott leaving the event early, preventing us from asking any questions about the looming federal investigation. So we sent him a few questions asking, when will you release the names of the employees who are currently under investigation? Will you release the names of all Safe Streets employees? If not, what is there to hide? Based on his comment he made to me in July,
I think the public should trust and know, just like they trust our police officers, that these lifesavers are out there doing their work.
I also asked the mayor, why should the community trust the program now given this federal investigation? Mayor Scott telling us via statement, this situation does not negate our responsibility to appropriately handle personnel information of individuals who were not direct city government employees. Remember, the mayor has routinely said the names of the employees should be kept secret, citing safety concerns. Those questions come after we sent him questions last week asking about this probe, and again the mayor evading direct answers. Meanwhile,
very concerned and extremely troubling.
City Council President Nick Mosby facing questions about Safe Streets and what he wants to see done with the program moving forward.
Do you think that there needs to be more transparency from the city about who these employees are, not just at this location, but at all of them, given what we're learning from the federal government about the possibility of illegal activity?
Well, you know, personnel matters happen.
Does the city have an obligation to be more transparent with the public?
I think it's probably a better ask of the organization.
The council president not saying whether all of the names of the Safe Streets workers should be revealed, despite taxpayers funding the program.
Good morning.
One thing Mosby is clear about, he does not see an issue with the Board of Estimates, the city's spending board that he chairs, approving $3.6 million in state funding Wednesday for Safe Streets. While the mayor continues to evade questions about this federal probe, we're committed to demanding answers, especially as we learn more about this FBI investigation into the city's flagship gun violence prevention program. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
The Safe Streets program hires former convicts, but it's not clear how the organization makes sure its employees don't commit more crimes while working for Safe Streets. Authorities say this photo of Safe Streets worker Ronald Alexander appears to show him carrying a bag of suspected drugs while standing outside of a Safe Streets location. At the Brooklyn office last year, Safe Streets employee Vernon Harper was named in an indictment accusing him of possessing fentanyl with the intent to distribute. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison. We've also tried on several occasions to get answers from former Monsey director Shante Jackson about the program, but more often than not, she walked away from our questions.
Director Jackson, can I ask you a couple of questions?
I think the mayor said meet us at the next.
Are you going? You have to realize that we have a job and we have the right to ask questions and get information out. Inspector Jackson, can we talk about the multi-year Safe Streets contracts?
We don't have any comment today.
I know that you announced your resignation, you're planning to leave. Can you say where you plan to go?
Let me stop right here.
Okay.
Never, ever will I prioritize any news about me over top of news about our young people.
That's why I didn't ask
we
during
can
the
save
press
that
conference.
question for a time when I'm ready to share it. Thank you.
Well, our investigation into Safe Streets finances found the program spent more than $5,000 at major shoe stores in April, $4,000 at stores like GameStop, Bath & Body Works, and Walmart. Records show the agency spent $2,500 in COVID relief money to take workers to Los Angeles. Now, many city leaders are calling for an audit of Monsey and Safe Streets.
I think an audit does need to be done.
Transparency is key. If you have people that are benefiting from tax dollars, then there should be some accountability there.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think Mayor Brandon Scott is being transparent about the Safe Streets program? So far, 97% of those who voted say no. You can make your voice heard by going to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Well, the fight for the soon-to-be vacant House seat is just beginning. Congressman John Sarbanes will not run for re-election in 2024. The congressman saying he's ready to step aside after 18 years in Congress. No official word yet on who's running to replace him, but local politicians are preparing to throw their names into the ring. One person considering a run, Howard County Executive Calvin Ball.
Well, I'm definitely thinking about it. I want to make sure that I make a decision finishing up my term as county executive or launching a bid as a Congress member. Where can I make the greatest impact for our community, and where is the greatest need right now? I'm going to talk with my family and my supporters, and we're going to come up with a great decision by Thanksgiving.
Tonight, we're taking a closer look at the upcoming vacancy in Maryland's 3rd Congressional District. Joining us right now to break it all down, political analyst John Deedy. John, thank you for being here with us.
You're welcome.
All right, we just heard Calvin Ball saying he is definitely considering a run for the 3rd District seat. What would a Ball campaign look like, do you think, and who else could step up to challenge him?
I think a Ball campaign would start by focusing on where he's at. County Executive Howard County, a very young and progressive county that over the last 20 years has moved very heavily into the Democratic Party's grip. So I think that that's where he's going to have to focus. Now, this district also covers a lot of Anne Arundel County. And you have a couple state senators, Sarah Elfridge and Dawn Guile, who are also talked about looking into this race. And I think this is very important. Besides also Delegate Vanessa Atterbury out of Howard County, in 1992, Maryland had 4 out of 10 congressional delegation members who were women. Since 2017, it's been 0. So I think it's pertinent upon both parties to think about broadening their horizons and looking at women candidates.
Yeah, interesting, John. And of course, you have Angela also Brooks running for that Senate seat right now. Why now for John Sarbanes? He served in Congress for quite some time, but he's stepping aside now. Is there anything that you've heard that might shed some light on why now?
I haven't heard anything, but in the speculation land, I think he hit the glass ceiling. And what I mean by it is this. When he got into Congress, a lot of people thought someday he might become a senator just like his father did. Problem is, the Senate seat never really opened up. In 2016, when it opened up, when Barbara Mikulski decided to retire, Chris Van Hollen jumped in really fast, nailed down a lot of endorsements fast. This time, when Ben Cardin decided that he was going to retire, Angela also Brooks got in fast, David Trone got in fast, and David Trone prints money a lot. He's just got a wealth of money. He would bury John Sarbanes. So I think he kind of looked at things and realized that he really wasn't going any farther than the House. And considering the fact that Hakeem Jeffries is seen as the rising star in the Democratic Party, he's the House Minority Leader. He's been in Congress less than John Sarbanes has been. And Sarbanes was once talked as a possible future person in leadership. So I think he realized he had to get out because he wasn't going any further than he was.
Oh, it's an interesting perspective, John. We know, oh my goodness, we watched the House of Representatives has been in chaos for the past month, not really functioning very well. How does that play in and affect this upcoming election?
I think for some people, they're not going to care about the chaos. They're going to care about the career move up. So I think a lot of them are going to do this. The one thing about this seat is it's going to be a Democratic seat because it's also Maryland's a Democratic state. Eurypsy Morgan ran last time. She could probably run a credible race this time, but I think she would unfortunately get buried. And I think that for a lot of people, they may see the chaos, but they may see the possibility of job promotion and an ability that they think they can do more. So I think that the chaos isn't going to deter anybody.
John, you know what? You never disappoint me and Mary, ever.
I try.
I wish I could print money, too.
Exactly. All right, John Deedy, political analyst, always with great advice and amazing insight. John, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, city and state leaders unveiling new plans to completely reshape Baltimore's inner harbor. These are the renderings of the reimagined harbor. The current space improved with new residential buildings, a lot of them, shopping centers, and some community spaces there. Fox 45's Olivia Dance has details.
A new project is bringing hope back to Baltimore's Harbor Place.
We will not stop until this project comes to fruition so that the world can see that Baltimore is back, baby.
For years, Harbor Place has been declining, the Light and Pratt Street pavilions losing tenants, but design plans announced Monday include a new residential tower, a new park, a 2,000-seat amphitheater, a retail food beverage hub, and more.
This is a new mixed-use